It was a busy moment in the Harvard chamber as the Senate has announced members of its Constitution Amendment Committee. The review committee is chaired by the Deputy Senate President Jibrin Barau, with the Senate leader Opeyemi Bamidele as the vice chairman. The Constitution Amendment Committee is made of 43 senators, 37 from each state of the Federation, including the FCT, and another 6 representing the geopolitical zones of the country.
Well, President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, says all motions and resolutions relating to constitution amendments forwarded to the Senate since last year would be transmitted to the committee. Well, the committee members include the Senate Minority Leader, Abba Moro.
Of the Senate Committee on the review of the 1999 Constitution as amended. There is need for us to touch on some aspects of the Constitution to bring them in line with current realities, particularly with the era of artificial intelligence and some of the things that we have observed that need to be put right. So the membership of the Constitutional Amendment Committee of the Senate for 2024 are as follows. Senator Jibrin Barau, Deputy Senate President, Chairman. Senator Bamidele Opeyemi, the Senate Leader, will be the Vice Chairman. Senator Yisa Oyetola will be the Deputy, will be the member. Let me explain. We are taking 1 senator per state because we are talking about constitutional amendment. 1 senator per state, and then we are also taking 1 senator representing each geopolitical zone.
Well, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Afam Osigwe, joins us now to make clear some of these key issues. Good to see you, and thanks for your time. I'd like to, start from the first conversation from the House of Representatives. They're also mooting the idea of going back to how we started parliamentary system, which ultimately may also give the country a unicameral legislature.
Well, my worry is that we seem to eulogize the benefits of the parliamentary system in the First Republic without adverting our mind to the political tensions and divisions in that republic led to the first military coup. And since that first military coup and then the attendant civil war from 1967 to 1970, Nigeria has become much more divided and polarized. So my fear is that as romantic as the idea of having a parliamentary system may sound in today's Nigeria, being justified by the idea that the cost of governance under a presidential system is very high, there's a lot of power reposed in the executive, that with the divisive nature of Nigeria, that you may have a situation like you have in Israel where there will be very small parties that will be holding other parties to ransom, making it difficult for a government to be formed. And so there may be a lot of instability at the center. So I think we need to advert our mind to all this. There are lawmakers, they represent us, they should know best, but I would like that we give some thoughts to the present division, the cleavages, political cleavages we have in Nigeria, and the tendency that people may win an election in small enclaves and hold the nation to ransom and create great instability, so there may be constant failure of government. It may just be that I'm raising an alarm for nothing. Yeah. But there may seem to appear to be some grounds for having such fears, drawing from some other countries where little political parties have won seats in parliament and made it difficult for a government to be formed, or making demands on the party that has the majority a number of representatives in the legislature, but not enough to call for a government to accede to some of their demands before a government can be formed. So these are fears that I would hope that those who are championing this move would advert their mind to, and also looking at the nature of Nigeria and hoping that such a system, if at all it is passed, will make for more cohesion and unity in the country.
So the arguments against actually far outweigh the argument for. I mean, the presidential system was to cure those challenges that Nigeria faced under a parliamentary system. Let's come to another issue, the issue of qualification to aspire to political office. What do you make of the argument for and against? You heard that point made by one of the lawmakers there, that, hey, professor, really? See what happened during the elections.
So I am somewhere in between.
Right.
So I'm not anti-education. I think education is very important. But when I recall that those who have the most education have not proved to be the best in governance, I'm somewhat inclined to some view that also does not downplay natural intelligence and the ability of people to have leadership qualities where they may not have the best of education. So I think rather than dwelling so much on the academic qualifications of those rulers, we should dwell on the type of persons we elect into office, irrespective of their paper qualifications. I mean, I've seen persons who are graduates who are not able to defend their certificates. I've even seen people who possess postgraduate degrees. And I also have seen people who parade themselves as having degrees, but whose degrees were forged. So maybe this insistence on paper qualification has also led to a spin-off of fake universities, people going to some unlicensed and unknown universities to get the documents, and they just put them and they get bogus titles. I think Nigeria needs people who can lead us out of the situation where we find ourselves, irrespective of their paper qualification. We need people who are public spirited, people who would place the welfare and security of the people as the center of whatever they do, and who would govern rightly.
Yeah.
Maybe some of the people
But the higher your educational qualification, the more refined your ability to understand or grasp challenges, and not to talk of being able to solve them.
Sometimes I think differently. My late father used to say that passing 6 is not passing sense. So education may not give you sense if you don't have it. And if I recall that a man like Henry Ford didn't have much education, and he founded the Ford Motor Company. And I could give you a number of persons who didn't have much education, who have built business empires, who only were driven by their vision and their tenacity and some other things. Then I'm unable to agree that until you get a university degree, you can be a good leader. But then education is very important.
Very important, but listening to you now excites me, because it reminds me of reading the philosophy of Julius Nyerere in his Ujama philosophy, where he spoke about education for self-reliance, and that's what you're saying now. But again, it's very possible. We attempted that even with the 6-3-3-4 system, thinking that it would get to a point, whether you want to become a plumber, a carpenter, whatever artisan ship you wanted to go into, but we jettisoned it.
Yes.
So how can we really bring back all of that? Because truly, I've seen a lot of people who are not, eloquent in English or in writing, but they are educated in their own ways.
So Suleiman, precisely the point I'm making, we have so much concentrated on acquiring paper degrees without making without training creative human beings, without making thinking persons. So most of our educational system is based on rote learning. So you cram, you pass, you lack practical or pragmatic experience on how to apply your knowledge. So you read engineering, for example, there's no lab, you're not able to test, but you're able to write the theory. So, but you cannot think, you cannot create. So there is very little entrepreneurial content in our education system. So we have a system that makes you brilliant without making you smart, without giving you the ability to solve problems. So you can't think out of the box. But you have people, that's why in the Western world, most of their societies emphasize on persons who can get things done, irrespective of whether they have paper qualification.
Like the handyman.
Like the handyman, so they come they are very pricey because they solve problems. And so most of them never had more than up to high school education. And the 664 system was to do this. And then we jettisoned it.
They charge by the minute, by the hour, to do
very
the task.
Very quickly, before we let you go, the constitutional amendment issue. Do you really need all of this, going around the country and what have you, or a simple referendum to say these are the key elements that we need to, amend our constitution?
Sometimes I wish I wouldn't have to be asked to express my view on it.
Please do.
Since the constitutional amendment started from Obasanjo's time, it's become a jamboree whose sums of money are voted for this. People travel around. The ordinary people don't even know what's going on. Even people local governments reject autonomy for themselves. Some House of Assembly reject financial autonomy for themselves. So it's a charade. Nobody wants something concrete out of it. I do not think speaking for myself, that the National Assembly members need to travel to the regions to have a hearing. There are not a lot of resource papers. Jonathan had constitutional conference. There was the earlier constitutional conference. There are a lot of research things. They can use consultants. You want to amend the law, have public hearing. This jamboree of moving around sometimes only makes money for the boys. And I'm not using boys in a pejorative sense. Yeah. But the point is, we really want to make laws to get Nigeria out of its present situation. We don't need to jump around. We don't need to make so much noise. We need to focus on those areas of the Constitution that we make the economy work for us. We make politicians accountable.
Absolutely.
We allow the governors to allow the local governments to breathe, to allow the local governments to manage their resources, and make the governors accountable to the people, and those at the National Center to do the same thing. You don't need all this plenty talk. The document we have at the moment can work for us if only we'll allow it to work.
Yeah. That's a conditionality clause. It's a fine place for us to leave it. Afam Osigwe, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, many thanks as always.
Thank you for having me.